The forest was glowing in the dark. Tall alien trees with blue leaves waved gently in the wind. Strange lights danced across the ground from glowing insects. But there was no peace tonight. Not for her. Zira ran, barefoot and bleeding. Her long, white hair stuck to her cheeks, wet with sweat and fear, behind her. She heard the deep growls of the beasts. Their claws scratched against the roots. Their teeth clicked with hunger. She didn't know their names, but she knew one thing. If they caught her, she was dead. Her foot hit a sharp rock. She stumbled, gasped, and almost fell, but she kept moving. She didn't have time to stop. The pain in her side burned like fire. Her leg was already torn by a branch. She had escaped. The slavers only 2 hours ago, and now the jungle was trying to kill her too. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Don't let them catch me." The beasts were fast, too fast. She could hear their breath behind her now. One of them let out a high-pitched screech, the sound cutting through the trees like a blade. She turned sharply, ran through a patch of glowing mushrooms, and nearly slipped again. Then she saw Itan. Opening between two large rocks, a small path led inside, dark and narrow. She pushed herself forward and squeezed in, holding her breath. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then, a shadow blocked the moonlight behind her. One of the beasts had found the entrance. Its eyes glowed red. Its mouth opened wide, full of jagged teeth. Zira screamed, backed away. Her back hitting cold stone. She closed her eyes, waiting for the pain, but it didn't come. Instead, she heard a loud hiss, then a flash of bright red light. When she opened her eyes again, the beast was gone. Smoke filled the narrow path, and a strong arm pulled her up from the ground. "Get up," a voice said, calm but serious. She blinked, confused, and looked up at a tall figure. It was a human. His face was covered in mud and small scars. He wore a jacket that looked burned and patched too many times. In one hand, he held a small flare, still glowing red. In the other, an old blade covered in black blood. Who are you?" she whispered. "No time," he said. "More are coming. Follow me." Too tired to argue, Zira followed him deeper into the rocks. They moved fast, turning left and right through the narrow space until they reached a wider cave. It was dry, warm and hidden. The man dropped the flare into a small pit and kicked sand over it, darkening the space. "Safe for now," he said. Breathing hard, Zira dropped to the ground, holding her knees. She couldn't stop shaking. Her body was weak, her stomach empty, and her mind spinning. "You're human," she said again. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he opened a metal box and pulled out a small cloth and bottle. He handed them to her. "For your wounds," he said. "You're bleeding too much." Zira stared at him. In her world, humans were called wild, dangerous, and selfish. But this one had saved her. Not once, but twice. "Why did you help me?" she asked, voice still low. "Didn't seem right to watch you die." He replied simply. He sat near the wall, sharpening his blade with a piece of stone. Zira wrapped the cloth around her legs slowly, still watching him. "What's your name?" she asked. "Logan," he said. "You?" Zira. Silence filled the cave again. Outside, growls echoed through the rocks. Closer now. Logan stood quickly, grabbing the rest of his gear. "They found the scent," he said. "There." Smarter than they look, he handed her a small knife. "Can you fight?" She shook her head, terrified. "No, I've never." "Then stay behind me," he said, standing at the entrance with his blade ready. His eyes didn't blink, his hands didn't shake. Zira couldn't understand it, how he was so calm while death waited just outside. A loud snarl filled the air. As the first beast climbed onto the rocks, its eyes glowed and its claws dripped with black liquid. It saw them and roared. Charging forward, Zira screamed again. But this time, the human didn't wait. He moved like a shadow, fast and silent. In one motion, he leaped forward, slashing the beast across the neck. Blood sprayed across the cave wall. The creature fell, twitching. Zira stared in shock. He turned back toward her, breathing hard. "They won't stop," he said. "More will come." Zira felt her heart pounding as she stood slowly. She looked at the human again. Maybe, just maybe, she had a chance to survive. But outside, more growls began to rise, and the real hunt had only just begun. The fire was small, just enough to keep them warm without drawing attention. Logan sat with his back against the rock wall, one eye always watching the shadows. Zira curled up across from him, clutching the blanket he had tossed her earlier. It smelled like smoke and old metal, but it was warm, and right now, that was enough. She didn't know what to think. This human was strange. He didn't ask questions, didn't try to touch her or claim her like the others. Before, he just watched, protected, and stayed quiet, like a ghost with a sword. Outside the cave, the beasts were still out there. She could hear them sometimes sniffing, growling, scratching at rocks. It was only a matter of time before they came again. Logan sharpened his blade in slow strokes. The sound echoed softly in the cave. Each spark felt like a heartbeat. Zira finally broke the silence. "You could have let me die," she said quietly. Logan didn't stop sharpening. "I could have," he replied. "Why didn't you?" He paused, looked at her, and shrugged. "I don't like seeing someone eaten." Zira stared at him, unsure if that was a joke. She wasn't used to this. Humans were supposed to be cruel, not calm. "I ran away," she said. "From slavers, from my own family." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Family sold you?" She nodded, eyes lowered. "My uncle traded me for engine parts." Logan didn't speak for a moment. Then he leaned forward, poked the fire with a stick, and said, "People like that deserve to rot." The words surprised her. He didn't sound like a soldier, not like someone from the high cities. He sounded honest. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she whispered. "Maybe because you know I'm not going to use it against you. Or maybe because you're the only person who hasn't tried to own me." Logan looked at her then. "Really?" Looked, her face was bruised, eyes hollow from nights of fear. But beneath it, there was something strong, something still holding on. "You've got fire," he said. "No, I don't," she replied. "It's gone." Logan shook his head. "You ran through beast territory with no food, no weapon, and you're still breathing. Most people wouldn't even try." The compliment made her chest feel tight. She turned her face away and wiped her eyes. "I don't want to be brave. No one does," he said. "But sometimes it's the only choice." Suddenly, a faint noise echoed from outside. Both of them froze. Not a growl, not a beast. Footsteps, heavy and slow. Logan stood up without a sound and motioned for her to stay low. He picked up a small stone, tossed it to the side entrance. Nothing. He moved closer to the opening and peeked out. Zira watched his silhouette. Every muscle tense, then snap. A loud cracking noise came from above. Logan barely jumped back as a chunk of rock crashed down. Zira screamed. The wall shook, dust filled the air, and from the top entrance, a giant shadow dropped into the cave. The beast was massive, nearly filling the space. Its black fur dripped with slime, eyes glowing gold in the dark. It growled low and charged. Logan shouted, pushing Zira behind him. The sword flashed, metal scraping across the creature's skin. It roared in pain, but it didn't fall. Zira grabbed the small blade he gave her. Before, her hands trembling, the beast knocked Logan against the wall. He grunted, blood on his lip. Zira didn't think. She jumped forward and stabbed blindly. The knife hit something soft, the beast howled and twisted. Logan lunged again, slashing deep into its neck. The cave filled with snarls and yells, and screams, then silence. The beast lay dead, twitching. Logan dropped to one knee. Gasping, Zyra stood over the body, blood on her hands, staring in shock. "You all right?" Logan asked, voice rough. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I stabbed it." "You did?" "I thought I couldn't." "You did anyway," he said, pulling himself up for a few moments. They just stood there, staring at each other. Outside, more growls echoed from the trees, but inside, something had changed. Zyra had taken a life, and saved one too. Maybe. She still had fire, after all. Zero sat outside the cave the next morning, staring at her hands. They were still stained with dark blood. Dried and cracking, no matter how much she rubbed them against the grass. The red wouldn't go away. She wasn't crying. Not anymore. Her eyes had no tears left. She had killed something last night. Not because she wanted to, but because it was going to kill him inside the cave. Logan patched up his ribs with a cloth and a metal brace. He moved slowly, like each breath hurt. But he didn't complain, not even once. He worked in silence. Same as always, Zyra finally walked back in. The beast's body was gone, burned to ash. He had done it while she slept. "You should have let me die," she said, breaking the quiet. Logan didn't look up. "Nope. I stabbed that thing like an animal." "Because it was. I felt nothing," she said, her voice shaking. "I stabbed it and felt nothing." Logan finally stood and looked her in the eyes. "That's not nothing, Zyra. That's survival." She hated how calm he was. Like nothing could ever break him, but deep down, she didn't hate him. She didn't hate him, she hated how she wanted to believe him, to believe someone like her could survive. "This world, without becoming a monster. Have you ever killed someone?" she asked. He was quiet for a long time, then nodded once. "Yeah. Did you feel anything? First time?" "I vomited." She blinked, surprised. He gave a weak smile. "Second time, I cried, and the third." He looked away. I stopped counting. That silence between them grew heavy again. But it wasn't cold. It felt like a moment of truth shared between two broken things trying to stay human. Logan handed her a protein bar, the wrapper dusty. And old, she took it and bit down, not even tasting it. "You're not a monster, Zyra," he said. She didn't answer, but she didn't argue either. Suddenly, there was a soft sound of buzzing. Faint but sharp, Logan turned his head fast. "That's not a beast," he said. "That's tech." Zyra froze. She knew that sound. A scanner. Someone was tracking her. Logan grabbed his gear, tossing her a small water canister and a thin roll of cloth packlight. "We move now, but where?" she asked. "Anywhere they're not." They moved fast. Deeper into the jungle, Zyra followed closely, her heart pounding. She had escaped slavers, survived beasts, and now someone else was coming for her. But who? By late afternoon, they found a stream and stopped to rest. Zyra bent to wash her face. The cool water felt like ice against her skin. She saw her reflection for the first time in days. She looked different, not softer, not cleaner, just more awake. Logan crouched nearby, eyes scanning the trees. His hand rested on his blade like it never left. "Do you think it's the slavers?" she asked. He shook his head. "To professional bounty hunters." Maybe. She thought about that for a second, then whispered, "I'm not worth that much." Logan looked at her again. "You are to someone." He didn't say it like a compliment. He said it like a warning. That was the scariest part. Zyra sat beside him, suddenly tired again. She had thought escape meant freedom. But now she knew better. Freedom wasn't something given. It had to be taken, fought for, and maybe protected. "I don't want to run forever," she said. "Then don't," Logan replied. "When you stop running, You start fighting. I'm not like you. No one is, he said with a grin. That's the point, the scanner. Buzz came again, closer. Zyra's breath caught in her throat. Logan, she said softly. He stood at once, eyes narrowed. Get ready, he said. We're not alone anymore. And in the trees behind them, a dark figure stepped out, armored, silent. And aiming a plasma rifle straight at Zyra's chest, the rifle's red light glowed against Zyra's skin. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Her feet were frozen. In place, her hands slightly shaking. Logan didn't wait. He stepped between her and the armored figure without hesitation. Lower it, Logan said, voice steady. The hunter didn't speak, just kept the rifle up, finger hovering near the trigger. Zyra could hear her heart pounding louder than the forest. The birds had stopped singing. The wind had gone still. Finally, the bounty hunter spoke. Target verified. Zyra, 17, property of Eulah's trading clan. Logan's eyes narrowed. She's not property. That's not your choice, the voice said through a filter. Cold and robotic. Zyra stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. I'm not going back. The hunter tilted his head slightly. Then your price just doubled. He moved to aim again, but Logan moved faster. In 1 second, he threw a flashbang stone from his belt. It hit the ground between them and exploded with a blinding light. Zyra screamed and dropped, covering her head. A loud struggle followed grunts, punches, the clash of metal. Then silence. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking past the white spots in her vision. Logan stood over the hunter's body, breathing hard, his lip bleeding. The hunter's helmet was cracked open, unconscious. You okay? He asked, helping her up. Zyra nodded, still stunned. He was. He was going to sell me again. Logan didn't say anything this time. He walked over, pulled a small device from the hunter's belt. It glowed faintly, blinking red, a beacon. Backup's coming, he said, smashing it against a rock. Zyra felt like she couldn't stop shaking. Even when the danger passed, the fear didn't. It stayed deep in her bones. I don't understand, she said. Why do they want me so badly? Logan glanced at her. You don't know? She shook her head. They said I was prime stock, but I thought that was just slaver talk. He crouched beside the unconscious hunter, pulled out a datapad, scrolled through something quickly, then stopped. Reading. He looked up slowly, eyes darker than before. You're more than they told you, he said. Zyra frowned, confused. What do you mean? Your DNA markers, he explained. They're rare, very rare, especially your blood type. You're valuable to certain royal bloodlines, genetically compatible. Zyra's stomach dropped, so I'm just a breeding contract. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Her breath caught. She had spent all this time running, hiding, bleeding, and for what? Because she was born with the right blood. She stood, took a step away from him. I don't want to be valuable, she said. I just want to be free. Logan looked at her and said something she didn't expect. Then you have to fight for it. She looked back, her eyes filled with heat. I can't fight people like that. They have power, armies, ships, and I've got traps, he said, smiling just a little, and maybe a stubborn girl who stabs beasts when she's scared. Zyra laughed, but it was bitter. I'm not a warrior. He stood beside her. No, not yet. The wind started again, soft through the trees. But Zyra no longer felt like a leaf ready to blow away. For the first time in her life, she felt her feet on the ground. Logan pointed at the sky. A faint rumble echoed in the distance. Dropships. We've got maybe 20 minutes, he said. She nodded slowly. What do we do? He glanced around. We set the jungle on fire. Her eyes widened. You're serious? He nodded. I've been here long enough. I know how to lead them where I want. Zyra smiled now. A real one. She didn't feel safe. Not yet, but she felt ready. They worked together, spreading traps, wiring flash pulses, and marking paths with scent lures. The jungle would become a maze, and in that maze, the hunters would become the hunted. As the sky darkened again and the dropships drew near, Zyra stood beside Logan with her knife in hand. She was still scared, but this time, fear wasn't stopping her. It was fueling her. And the girl who once ran barefoot in the dark was about to fight for her future with a human by her side. The jungle was alive with fire. Orange flames leaped across dry leaves, smoke curling up into the sky like a signal flare. But this fire wasn't wild, it was planned. Each spark, each branch soaked with scent bait. Each step of the trap had a purpose. Logan crouched on a tree limb high above the forest floor. His rifle balanced carefully, his eyes scanning the smoke. Beside him, Zyra lay flat on her stomach, her fingers gripping a rope trigger. Her face was marked with dirt, sweat. "And focus? You ready?" Logan whispered. Zyra nodded. She didn't speak much now, not because she was scared, but because she didn't need to. The dropships had landed just minutes ago. Heavily armed bounty hunters moved through the trees. They wore dark armor, masks, and carried heat scanners. But they didn't know this place. Logan did. He had turned this jungle into a living weapon, and now it was time to use it. One of the hunters stepped onto a pressure route. Zyra pulled the rope. A swinging log covered in metal shards came down fast. It smashed the hunter's chest, sending him flying into the smoke. Zyra flinched at the sound, but didn't look away. Logan gave a nod of approval. "You're good at this?" "I'm tired of running," she whispered back. More footsteps. Another squad moved through the left path right into a snare pit. Logan triggered the trap himself, for hunters dropped with shouts, swallowed by vines and spikes. Screams echoed through the trees, then faded. The rest of the hunters stopped moving, now aware something was wrong. "Scatter," one of them yelled. "Bad move," by separating. They walked right into more traps. Electric snares snapped shut. Flash bombs blinded them. And one unlucky hunter triggered a sleeping gas mine in less than 15 minutes. Half of them were down. Zyra's breathing grew heavier. She wasn't used to this, watching people fall, hearing them beg or groan or vanish. But she didn't look away. She forced herself to stay still. "Stay sharp. Stay alive. They'll retreat," she said, voice tight. Logan frowned. "No," he said. "They'll send their best now." He was right. From the smoke came a single figure. Taller than the rest, heavier armor, glowing red eyes behind the mask. The commander, he didn't move like the others. He moved like someone who had survived wars. Someone who had seen every kind of death and still walked forward. "He's different," Zyra whispered. Logan's eyes narrowed. "That's not just a hunter," he said. "That's a collector." Zyra's heart sank. Collectors were known across the system. They didn't care about the law, the price, or the victim's screams. They took what they were told to take. They never failed. Logan handed her a small device. "If I say run, you run." Zyra shook her head quickly. "No, this guy's not like the others." "Then we fight smarter," she said, "like you taught me." The collector didn't fall for traps. He avoided each one, scanned the air, followed their trail. He was moving fast, too fast. Logan dropped from the tree and motioned for Zyra to go the other way. They'd flank him, confuse him. But the collector was already waiting. He turned just as Zyra appeared behind him. She gasped, barely blocking the strike with her blade. The force knocked her back, crashing through a bush. Logan charged, swinging hard. The collector blocked it like it was nothing and countered with a shock blade. Electric sparks flew as Logan's blade shattered. He fell to one knee, growling in pain. Zyra got up, ran toward them. "No." The collector lifted his weapon, again ready to strike a final blow. But Zyra did something no one expected. She screamed, jumped between them, and held out the device Logan had given her. A blinding flash erupted from its sonic, blinding, and deafening. The collector stumbled. Roaring, Logan pushed forward, grabbed the shock blade, and stabbed it straight into the collector's chest plate. The armor cracked. The collector dropped. Twitching, Zyra fell to her knees beside Logan. "You okay?" she asked. He grinned through the blood. "I knew you'd fight smarter." They looked around. No more footsteps, no more scanners. The jungle was silent again. Zyra had not only survived, she had helped defeat something unstoppable. And this time, she wasn't the girl being hunted. She was the one who stood and fought back. Night fell quietly over the jungle. Smoke from the traps still lingered in the air. Faint embers crackled in the grass where fire had kissed the land. But for the first time in days, Zyra didn't feel like prey. She stood over the fallen collector, the mask broken, revealing part of a face card. Cold and lifeless, she didn't even flinch. She had seen worse, lived through worse. Logan leaned against a rock, holding his ribs. His jacket was torn. Blood soaked through the bandages underneath. But he smiled, like it was just another day in hell, and he'd already made peace with it. "You're hurt," Zyra said, her voice quiet but sharp. He shrugged. "I've been worse. That's not a good thing." She helped him sit, her hands steady now. It was strange, she thought, how fast someone could change, how fast she had changed. A week ago, she was a scared girl in chains. Now she was setting traps, swinging blades, facing death without blinking. "I think I broke something," Logan muttered, wincing. "Which part?" "Most of them," she almost laughed, but the sound died quickly, because just beyond the tree line, something shimmered, a flicker of red light, followed by 3 more. Zyra froze. "They're still coming." Logan looked up, the humor gone from his face. "How many?" 4, different from the last group. She nodded. "Uniforms are darker, thinner helmets, elite class," he said, sighing. "Of course." He stood slowly, almost collapsing. Zyra caught his arm. "You can't fight like this. Can't let them take you." "I'm not letting them take you either," she snapped back. Their eyes locked for a second. Neither one blinked. Then they both nodded. No more arguments. Zyra checked the leftover traps. Most were gone or spent. Only one trick remained, buried deep in the old supply pack Logan had carried for years. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message. She pulled out a signal chip, old Earth's military grade, the kind that could call for help or warn entire regions. She looked at Logan. "Does this still work?" He nodded. "One-time ping. If we use it, it tells everyone where we are." "Yes, even the wrong people, especially the wrong people." She stared at the chip, then at the jungle, and made her decision. "We use it, Logan." Didn't question her. He simply said, "All right, then we hold this place for 10 minutes. What happens after 10 minutes? "If we're lucky," he said, loading his last pistol. Something loud. The elite hunters moved like shadows, fast, smooth, deadly. They didn't speak, didn't shout. They just appeared. Zyra barely had time to react before one was already behind her. She ducked, rolled, and slashed upward. The blade scraped armor, not flesh. But it bought her time. Logan fired once, twice. One shot hit, the other missed. The hunter fell, sparks bursting from his chest plate. But another took his place. Then another. Zyra and Logan stood back to back. She breathed hard, every move sharper than the last. Her mind raced, but her hands didn't shake. This was her fight now, not just his. One hunter grabbed her arm. She twisted, slammed her elbow into its helmet, then drove the knife into the side of its neck. Joint. The alien tech sputtered, and the hunter collapsed. Logan fought with quiet rage. His strikes slower now, but still deadly, until he fell, knees hitting the ground. Blood ran down his shoulder. One of the energy blades had cut deep. Zyra screamed his name. She ran to him, stabbed the last hunter through the back, and dropped beside Logan. He looked at her through half-closed eyes. "I'm not done yet," he whispered. "Shut up," she said, pressing her hand to the wound. "I told you to run if I went down, and I told you I don't take orders anymore." She tapped the signal chip. A sharp beep sounded. The light blinked. Green, far above, something roared through the clouds. A thunderous engine, louder than anything in the sky for days. Zyra looked up, eyes wide. A massive ship broke through the clouds. Earth military. Old model, but armed. It had heard them. It was coming, but so were more enemies. Dozens, maybe more, drawn by the beacon. The sky lit up again. Not from fire, but from what was coming next. Zyra stood, blade in one hand, chip in the other, behind her. Logan tried to rise, and before them, one final battle was waiting. Asterisk. The sky was no longer dark. The Earth ship burned through the clouds like a falling star. Its engines roared, its guns clicked to life, and its scanners locked onto the heat signatures below. Asira stood still, arms braced, her knife still gripped tight. Behind her, Logan leaned against a rock, pale from blood loss, but still alive, still watching. Ahead of them, the jungle moved again. Not wind this time, not wild animals, more hunters, dozens of them, crawling from the trees like shadows made of armor and hunger. Zyra stepped forward. She didn't run, she didn't shake. She had nothing left to fear. These people, these monsters had hunted her for what she was born with, but now she wasn't. Alone, now she had something they didn't. A reason to fight. The first shot came from above. The Earth ship fired a warning burst, a blinding light slashing through the trees. Several hunters scattered, but more kept coming. They weren't after survival, they were after her. Logan raised his head slowly. "You've got 5 minutes," he said, voice weak but steady. Zyra didn't answer. She was already moving. She ran straight into the wave of hunters, dodging left and right, slashing low, spinning fast. Her blade caught one in the leg, dropping him with a thud. Another swung at her. She ducked, rolled, came up, slicing through the arm joint. Pain screamed through her side, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Each breath was fire, each heartbeat louder than the ship above. But her feet stayed steady. Her hands didn't miss. The ship landed slowly. Heavy metal feet crushing stone and soil. The ramp hissed open. Figures in black stepped out. Humans, Earth soldiers, armed and armored. They aimed, they fired. Blue light danced through the trees as plasma rounds struck the hunters. One by one, they fell. Not just from Zyra's blade, now, but from real support. She stumbled, fell to one knee, breathing hard. Blood dripped from her arm, her face, her leg, but the fight was ending. Logan crawled forward, dragging himself with one hand. He saw her drop and shouted her name. She looked back, smiled faintly. Then 2 Earth soldiers reached her, lifting her up carefully. "She's the target," one of them said. "She's the survivor," the other corrected. They brought Logan too. Medics swarmed them as the last hunters fled into the trees. The ship's engines rumbled again, lifting off inside the ship. Zyra lay on a bed of cold metal, her hand wrapped in Logan's. She looked at him, his eyes half closed. "You better not die," she said softly. "I wasn't planning to." He muttered back. The medic scanned her wounds, shocked at the number. Did she take on an entire squad by herself? He asked. "She had help," Logan whispered. "She had purpose." Zyra said, eyes sharp. Hours passed. They landed in a hidden base. Safe from the reach of bounty networks, Zyra was taken to a small room to rest. But she didn't sleep. A woman in an Earth officer's uniform entered. "You're Zyra." "Yes, we received multiple bounties with your face. Half the galaxy wants you either captured or dead." Zyra didn't blink. "I know, but you didn't run." "No," she said. "I fought." The officer nodded slowly. "You have a choice now," she said. "Stay hidden forever. Or come with us, train, learn, become something none of them ever saw coming." Zyra looked through the glass wall toward the recovery room. Logan lay there, his chest rising slowly. She turned back to the officer. "I'll fight," she said. "But only if I choose why." The officer smiled. "Good answer." Weeks later, Zyra stood in the base courtyard, now in training gear. Her body stronger, her eyes sharper, her steps silent. Logan sat nearby, healing but proud. "You really doing this?" he asked. She nodded. "You saved my life," she said. "Now I'll make sure it means something." He laughed quietly. "Just don't get too good." "Why?" "Because one day I might be the one needing rescue." She smiled. "If that day comes, I won't run." "I know," he said. "You're not the girl who is hunted anymore." "No," she whispered, looking at the stars above. "I'm the one they'll learn to fear, and somewhere out in the galaxy, the ones who had marked her as prey didn't know yet that the hunted girl had become a fighter. And she had a human to thank for that."